the root of the problem has to be addressed like as soon as possible. You know, that's why parents gotta stay involved with their kids. You know, it's like any kind of changes they see with the kids, talk to them.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. Okay, what you see right now is the same congenial person he was in middle school. So why you? Support for the Suffering Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming.
Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle.
Inside the package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0, Weed Whacker Ear, Nose, Hair Trimmer, and the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant.
And we also got the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. This thing is a life changer. Along with that,
boxer briefs.
I'm going to tell you what, these are like high quality boxer briefs, and this is no joke. I'm not saying this just because their Manscaped sent it to us. These are nice. My boys are going to be quite happy in there.
You can't tell Kevin's wearing them under the table right now. And we also have a nice travel package.
Join over 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TSP at manscaped.com.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of balls.
Why you? Why you? Were we all that big of a racist in order to, just because you were Puerto Rican and you were the only Puerto Rican in our grade?
See, and that's the thing. I don't know if that was. I cannot say if that was what motivated the bullying at the time, because the only answer I got was, "Oh, I just don't like you."
I don't know if it's actually racist. I just think it's seeing someone that's different.
Yes.
Right? Not necessarily.
Because we had black kids in our school.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it like you got it. But I'm going to tell you one incident that I remember specifically, and I didn't bring this up on the first one because I guess I'm still embarrassed. Mrs. Sabbath was an English teacher, and it was 6th grade. You were sitting directly in front of me. I sat in the back because I was fucking horrible. And your pants were riding down. Your butt crack was showing. For some reason, in the middle of class, I kicked your chair and I said, "Pull your goddamn pants up." And you turned around and in class, you said, "Stop kicking me." And I think that was a huge turning point for me. Mm-hmm. It really was a huge turning point because bullies have something wrong with them. They're not okay. Whether something's going on at home or something's going on somewhere in their life, and they're transferring that onto somebody who, again, I saw as a target.
Could be an insecurity issue too.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. You're 100% correct. So the bullying that went on with you was more about me and stuff that was bad in my life, which took me a lifetime to get over. And I felt about this big when you got up and said something. And I don't even think, like, normally, like today, I'd have been suspended, 100%. I have no excuse because here's the shitty thing. You were such a nice guy that I should have been friends with you. Because they're always in short supply in middle school, nice people.
Yeah.
And you know what, my kids, I talk about you with my kids now because my kids, my oldest is in 7th grade. I talk about you often. And he knew you were coming in tonight. He's like, "You're not going to get punched, are you?" And I'm like, "I might, but if I get punched, I deserve it."
I'd love to see him come home with a bloody nose.
A shiner or something like that.
When you went home, and did you tell your mother, did your parents know?
Yeah, my mom, because I was living with my mother at the time. So, I used to tell her about it. But she was one, again, back in the day that was like, "Oh, don't pay attention to them. It's like don't let them bother you." But
it had to on some level.
Yes.
Easier said than done.
It's easier said than done, exactly, because it was a constant daily thing.
Was there times like that you regretted going to school? Like, do I, like wake up in the mornings, like, do I really have to go for it?
It never got to that point. It never got to that point where it's like, no, I didn't want to go to school or whatever for that. But when I would get to school, it's like, I was basically basically prepared to take the abuse that I was going to, because it was like, okay, I can't be scared of these guys either.
Yeah.
I can't show that I'm fearful. You know, you want to, you do want to stand up for yourself, and as hard as it can be for some people. Mm-hmm. But
especially if aggression is not in your nature.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not one that, like I said, it's got to be something really, you have to do something really horrible for me to finally snap and get to that point.
The kids who hung around, and it was almost like a mob mentality, because once one started, everybody else picked it up.
It's trying to fit in and try to act cool in front of your friends.
Yeah, but you got to also remember, and I'll say this to the day I die, I was raised that way. As a matter of fact, Andrew Santiago, who is our producer, we had this discussion before you came in. When I was a kid, on the I know there's a hierarchy of Spanish culture. I know the hierarchy, as it's perceived by the Spanish culture. And when I was a kid, I was told, you stay away from Puerto Rican kids because they're dirty. At that time, now Puerto Ricans are Americans like everybody else. Mm-hmm. They've been assimilated into the culture, and they're just like every other second generation person coming to this country. But back then, I was taught a very specific way on how to treat people. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would have fared well if I would have brought you home as a friend. And that's a sad thing.
So maybe that was always in the back of your mind too.
Yeah, maybe. But it's a shitty way to live life. And I just had this discussion with my son. So I said, the kids who are not in the quote unquote cool kids, who you might think are a little off or you don't want to hang around with because they're not popular, those are the kids you gravitate towards. And I'll tell you why. Because that group of popular kids, when the shit hits the fan, they will be ghosts. You'll see, it'll be like a cartoon. When they leave the room, a smoke puff will come out. But those kids who you say aren't popular, aren't cool, when the shit hits the fan, they're going to be the ones that hang around and stick around. Those are the ones you want to gravitate towards.
Those are the ones that are going to stick up for you. They're going to be there for you, no matter how bad the situation may be, because they want to make sure that you get through that situation.
And they're probably going to be the successful ones when they grow older.
Yeah. Instead of out stealing condoms, they were home studying. Did you had your group of friends though in middle school?
Yeah, I did. I did.
And how did they react to what was going on in you? Because some of them got it too.
Yeah, some of them got it too, but I guess we took the lumps. We took the lumps as we got them. Of course, again, it's the normal teasing that we used to do back then, that they were subject to and stuff.
Back then, you couldn't go to a teacher without being considered a rat or something like that. Now kids run to the teachers all the time.
They wouldn't do anything anyway.
No.
I mean, I did something to Jay in the middle of class. The teacher heard it. He got up and yelled at me. And the teacher did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. But see, you got to also understand. Let me take you back for a second, because in ECA with the blue lockers, remember the blue lockers?
Yes.
They weren't the skinny lockers like you had in high school. They were big lockers, so you could actually fit somebody in there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you had to kick the door closed in order to get them in. So yes, people were shoved in lockers. That is 100% true.
That happened in every school growing up when we were kids.
All I know is you weren't fitting my fat ass in a locker.
No, I was a big kid back then too. You weren't fitting me in that locker either.
You maybe grease the sides, you might get me in.
Shove them in the janitor's closet.
Now, when you left that school, did the memories fade, or did they stick with you for a while?
I remember the good stuff more than anything else. It's like I wanted to leave that, that stigma of the bullying and the teasing, just leave that behind.
Did it ever continue when you went to high school?
No, never did.
All right, because we didn't go to high school together for everybody. You left school after eighth grade. You left Absecon after 8th grade.
Yeah, I went to Vineland for a little bit. Then I actually ended up moving back with my mom. Went to Absegami for about 9 months, and then I ended up moving up to New York.
Actually, Absecon kids can go to Absegami now, because we had to go to our sending district was Pleasantville High School, which wasn't the nicest place in the world.
Yeah. That was part of the reason why I ended up leaving, because I didn't want to go to Pleasantville High School.
Yeah.
Did the bullying have anything to do with you leaving, or you just didn't want to go to that high school?
No, I didn't want to go to the high school.
So
and at the time, I couldn't afford to go to Holy Spirit either.
The Holy Spirit was the high school that
school.
everybody from Absecon went to, even if you weren't Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there either. But
And it was literally right behind. It's just step behind and it's right there.
your mother still doesn't live in that same area, correct?
No. She's up here in New York.
So you lived off of California Avenue.
Yes.
Yes. I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember those really well.
Yeah. The Absecon townhouses.
Yes. It was like one of the first townhouse development. It was the only townhouse development in Absecon.
Yeah.
You leave. You go through your life, never any bullying situations. Did you ever transfer that on to somebody else?
No. That's just not in my nature. I'm more of the type that I'm going to look to help. Help through.
Well, did you ever see somebody in your old situation and try to help them?
There maybe a couple of times, not on the regular. But again, if somebody needed something, I would always try to help them, try to find their best way for them, steer them in the right direction that they needed to go, or to give them the support that they needed. Because you know what, kicking people while they're down is not good.
You know, I mean, he's such a nice guy. You must have been some scumbag.
I was a giant scumbag.
You really are.
I was a giant scumbag. You know, and I've searched. So not only did I search for you physically, but I also searched my mind to try to figure out why I did it. Because the minute you left school, I started to have this pain in my stomach. Like, why did you do that? Like, why? What is the reason why you did this? So I searched my soul to try to figure out why I did it. And that's I've been very candid with you. We've had numerous conversations about this. I wasn't right. I wasn't right back then. I had a really, really rough place to grow up, and I just saw somebody to take it out on. But you know, so
it's really almost a definition of a bully.
Yeah, it's the, so looking back on it, what would you have done differently? How would you have approached it if you were 49-year-old Jay?
I would have been more assertive. I would have been more like nip it in the butt, like right away. It's like, no, this is not going to continue. You are not going to be harassing me. You know, and God knows at that point, it's like, okay, we got to step outside.
Yeah.
And back then, the myth wasn't around that all Puerto Ricans carried knives like it is today.
No.
So, you know, that happened with my son.
Andrew's shaking his head. Yeah. Andrew, my mouth is going to get me canceled.
My son was being bullied in high school. And, well, actually, it was grammar school, I think. And I told him, I said, when you see him tomorrow, first thing you do, punch him as hard as you can right in the face. I forgot to tell him not to do it in school. So you wound up getting suspended. And they called me in and said, your son punched someone. I said, listen, he was being bullied, and he told you he was being bullied. Mm-hmm. You did nothing about it. I took it into my own hands. Don't take it out on my son. Take it out on me. Mm-hmm. Him and the kid were best friends after that.
Look at that.
How did that affect you when you finally you get married, you start having children? How did that affect the way you raised your children?
With raising the kids, again, thank God that, you know, amongst hearing what their peers are going through and stuff, that they ended up being the way they were. But one thing I told them was that if anything is going on in school, let us know, because we're going to nip it in the butt right away. We're going to, we got to bring parents in to settle this, because we got to figure out why it's happening in the first place. Did
you ever tell them your story?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told them.
I got 3 more enemies now.
Nah.
4, his wife.
That's all depending on...
the wife was always there. As a matter of fact, after episode 12, when I had you in, I remember calling Jay, after it aired, I remember calling Jay and going, does your wife want to kill me now?
Sometimes I'm lucky to know they're even listening, so... In one ear out the other.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, I thought to the show, because my wife doesn't listen.
We don't have too many listeners now.
Now, after that episode aired, I received a ton of messages from people we went to school with.
Mm-hmm. They were all calling you an asshole too?
They knew. Most of them knew. You know, it wasn't a surprise. Like, hey, so, oh my God, he was such a nice guy. Nobody ever said that about me. One of the names is Kim. I won't say her last name. You know who I'm talking about. She reached out to me and just had such a nice message, and it really brought things full circle for me, because it wasn't a healing situation so much for it was. I'm assuming it was a healing situation for you, but it was so much of a healing situation for me, and it was nice to know that. You know, although you make certain decisions. That's why that social media question was so important. You make certain decisions in youth that you have to live with for the rest of your life.
Yes.
You know, it's like getting a case of herpes sometimes. That shit never goes away. But, you know.
Eloquently put.
I'm a eloquent wordsmith. So, but with you, here's what's possible. You do have the ability to right certain wrongs. It's not, you know, unless you do something that's so egregious that you can never make it right.
Yeah, there's no turning back from it. It's like you got to live with what, you know, with whatever consequences happen, and that's it.
You know, and I worked in, before I was a cop, I worked in Morris County Juvenile. And we had to go to other juvenile places from time. We went to Jamesburg. They had a 9-year-old killer in there.
Wow.
9-year-old killer.
And not necessarily lying, but you hear more and more that 12-year-old kids getting locked up with carrying guns into schools and.
Yeah, you had the case in Serbia this morning. This morning in Serbia, in Belgrade, a kid took his father's loaded weapon, and I think he killed 7 people or something.
Holy cow! We never heard of that stuff.
No, never, not up until I think Columbine.
And we were. So this is something that's really important that I want to get into. The way they handled bullying with us, and I'm not saying that's right, versus the way they handle bullying now. I mean, you see this because you have kids who went through the system at this time. I'm seeing it currently, and Mike, you've seen it as well. They're handling bully as almost like, all right, they'll do their suspension or do whatever, but then they separate the kids.
Yeah.
Where in our time, the only way to get rid of a bully is to stand up to the bully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But we never heard of school shootings.
No.
So I actually have a theory about this, and this might be one of my crackpot theories, but it might hold some truth. So with somebody who releases that pent-up aggression by finally snapping and saying, cut the shit or we're gonna fight. What that does is it's that release. Like you can't, when you build that stuff up, it's like a pressure cooker. And then one day that pressure cooker explodes. And I think that's what happens with a lot of these kids.
Yeah.
You know, they go in there and they get the gun is power. And finally they have some power over the people and then there's just some bad kids.
The root of the problem has to be addressed like as soon as possible. You know, that's why parents got to stay involved with their kids. You know, it's like any kind of changes they see with the kids, talk to them.
Well, what are some changes that parents might want to look out for? Like some of the signs that you exhibited going home. I'm sure you just didn't open up to your mom and say, "Mom, this is what's going on."
Look for changes in, you know, how the attitude, how they treat you when they get home, or if they so like the kid seems to be closed off for you when he was always they were always a gabby person. You know, they were very talkative. When they kind of shut down, and it's like daily, it's like, okay, we got to figure out what's going on here. It's like, you know, and just
was that some of the things that you did?
Yeah, I admit it. Yeah, I kept a lot of that stuff to myself, but I also had avenues to, you know, kind of just take my mind off of things.
Like what? What do you?
You know, I had, you know, back in the day, I had my Transformers, I had G.I. Joes, and I used to go bike riding.
Matchbox cars that he stole.
Matchbox cars, yeah.
He had a lot of Matchbox cars.
Oh, you got to see how many crates I got downstairs in my basement.
All stolen.
No.
All real hot. He put a whole new term to the word Hot Wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, not Grand Theft Auto, at least, you know. But yeah, definitely look for the grades going down.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, it's like, okay, this he was doing so well, and now all of a sudden his grades are plummeting. It's like, you got to find out, it's like, hey, what's going on with you? You know, we got to talk, you know, because this is not who I know you are, you know, in school.
Well, my relationship with you really has a large impact on how I raise my kids. And I'll give you an example. So my son got into a fight in school. And knowing the kid he got into a fight with, where I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense. So they suspend my son, and they're both football players of mine. Both of the kids are football players. So I knew there was going to be some heavy consequences on my son. And I said, look, man, your mistake was you did it in front of a camera. You did it where everybody can see it. Now you got to eat it. You got to take responsibility for what you did. What you did wasn't right. But here's what I did. So I reached out to the kids' parents. I knew the kids' parents. And this happened like on a Tuesday. So he was suspended, or no, it happened on a Monday. He was suspended Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Saturday, with the permission of the other parents, I said, look, what I'd like to do is take them both out for pizza. I'm their coach. All right. They both know me. Let me take them out for pizza. Let me work this out. Before Monday, they both got to go back to school, and let's get it out of the way. They think that's a great idea. Take them out for pizza, and here's how I handled it. Because it's a difficult conversation.
Got to dance around a lot.
Yeah. So I said, you two, go sit over there at that table, have a slice of pizza and a drink. Because it's no different than you and I getting into a fight and going and sitting in a bar and hashing it out. Go hash it out, make up, and that's what they did. Within 5 minutes, you saw their demeanor where it was one of embarrassment, and you saw their demeanor change into, okay, now they're just back to normal. So here's the problem. I go back in, you have to go to a meeting or something, and like a re-entry meeting, and I got to sit with the vice principal, and the vice principal, I didn't really care for him too much, tries to make me sign this contract. Okay, these kids will never talk to each other, never be around each other, never sit at the same table. And I said, bullshit. Tries to make me sign it.
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
Very big.
Because it doesn't solve if there was another problem, still an underlying problem, it doesn't really solve it.
No, I think we fall short of teaching our kids how to resolve conflicts. I really do.
Without a doubt.
So what they
especially with social media today, because everything just festers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything just festers on social media. It just keeps going and going and
somebody go back and say, yeah, remember when you posted this?
And then there's the keyboard tough guys too, and they'll just keep firing it away. So